All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sink and Swim. Today, I get to sit down with one of my oldest friends, PT colleagues, PT school classmate, Kate Mihevc Edwards. I knew her when she was Mihevc.
That nobody can pronounce, right?
Nobody
Except
can
for
pronounce it.
yeah.
Nope.
Thanks for
We
having
have
me.
walked through a lot of life together, the gritty, the gorgeous, the moments of crying on the bathroom floor, calling each other about something. Lots of laughter. I very much hope, I think we already heard it, but I hope you get to hear Kate's laugh a lot. It's actually the only reason I invited you was to have the laugh,
That makes complete sense. I mean, I
capture it.
understand.
And the identity molting moment. So I can't wait for you to hear her heart, her story, and her infectious spirit. A little bit about Kate. There's a lot we could say, but Kate is a running medicine specialist, founder of Precision Performance Running Medicine Clinic, founder of the RunSource app. She's published multiple books. She's got a laundry list of a million amazing professional accolades, as she should. But what's really, really cool about her is her unique medicine that she brings to the table. And I've always known this about her, but now you all get to hear about it, which is she is so good at holding like the science with the soul in one conversation and bringing that magic to all of her people. Today, we're going to talk about the day that her body changed the direction of her life. And it happened in the middle of a run. Of course it did. And what rerouted after that, not only in her professional world, but in her entire identity, purpose, fabric, everything. And we'll dig into the sometimes painstaking choice to be seen or heard, the power to create and maintain containers that keep her well, and how she has sunken in and risen to swim, or in her case, run, into who she truly is meant to be. So welcome, Kate.
Thanks, Julie. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to spend time with you, first of all, because
I know.
we at least get to do it once a year now.
Yeah,
Now that my son goes to camp down the street from you.
I know.
But this is really lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, I live in the land of summer camp. So, for anyone listening, Kate comes and drops her son off for summer camp, and we get to hang out at least then. And that's great, especially because we don't live in the same place anymore.
I know, which is crazy.
All right. So, take us to the moment. We're just going to jump right to it. Take us to the moment when everything changed. And obviously, it wasn't exactly that moment when everything changed. So I also want to hear what happened after, the ups, downs, the nitty gritty.
Sure.
Walk us through.
Sure, I can do that. And you were there, which is kind of crazy, or part of it anyway.
I was there
A
for
lot of it.
a good bit of it.
But the day
Being like,
after. So okay, so we'll just start there. So
we'll include that.
yeah, we'll include that. So I was training for a half Ironman, and it was my first major race after having my son. And I had done several marathons. I think 13 is what the final count was. Several Bostons, different types of triathlon, mostly short course. And I was trying to get into the longer triathlons. And I had been training for a little while and I never really felt good, but I was just postpartum and I thought that, okay, this is normal. So it's normal that I'm falling asleep at 7 o'clock at night. It's normal that I'm completely exhausted and can't really move through my day like I normally would. So I just kept pushing myself, which was exactly who I was and what I always did. So I went out on this 5 mile run around my neighborhood. It was a Monday. My son had just been dropped off at school and I wasn't seeing patients that day. So I went out and I immediately didn't feel good. And the entire time I did that thing where I was talking, poorly to myself, where I
Mm-hmm.
was saying, what is wrong with you, Kate? Are you still an athlete? Why aren't you able to push yourself the way that you normally could push yourself? So instead of listening to my body, I was pushing past all of the red flags, everything that I felt. And I did a couple walking breaks and I was getting more angry with myself along the way. And finally, about a mile away from, not a mile, maybe half mile from my house, I decided to push myself as hard as I could because I needed to prove to myself that I was still an athlete and I was still fast and it didn't matter that I just had a child. And so I did. I pushed myself as hard as I possibly could up the hill And as soon as I got in front of my house and my feet slowed down and I started to stop, it was like my heart was beating outside of my chest. My sports bra was strangling me. I started to feel dizzy and I started to feel confused. So I walked myself to the front steps. I put my head between my knees and I started to breathe. That's the only thing I knew to do. And I was very confused. My Garmin was at 300 beats per minute and then it stopped tracking. And I thought, oh, this stupid Garmin, it's broken. And I just sat there and I breathed. And finally, I don't know how long it was. It was maybe a minute or two. My heart rate started to calm down. I started to kind of like realize, I think maybe I'm in trouble. I should probably tell somebody. And I was walking next door to my neighbor's house. And then I all of a sudden was like, I'm fine. And I turned around and went home. And then I proceeded on my day. I didn't tell anybody really. I didn't do anything. And then I came to work the next day and I said, hey, Julie, this thing happened yesterday and I feel kind of funny today. And I'm not really sure. And she was like, oh my God, we're canceling all your patients and
Sit
you're
down.
going to the doctor. Let me take your heart rate. Like, let me take your blood pressure. And I'm like, it can't be that serious. Like, what? I'm a marathon runner. I'm a triathlete. Like, I'm fine. And you made me go to the doctor. And that was really what started a 9 to 10 month long journey of figuring out what the heck was wrong with me. So that day, I had actually gone into ventricular tachycardia. And so my Garmin was not lying. My heart rate was well above where it should have been, and it was skipping beats. And over the next 9 months, 10 months, it was really hard because nobody knew what was wrong. And they did test after test. Everything came back negative. They would say, okay, don't run so fast. Okay, maybe don't run so far. How about we don't run at all? And it just kept being like they were taking, there was like little pieces of me that were slowly being stripped away of who I was at the core, because I was a runner and I treated runners and everything I did in my life was about running. And they're telling me I can't do it because it's not safe. Well, I finally was diagnosed with what they used to call as ARVC, but now they call it ACM, arrhythmogenic cardiomyopathy. And it's where the little bridges in your heart cells break and they scar down and they create electrical issues. So that's why I was in VTAC in your heart. And eventually, if you continue and it continues happening, the heart muscle will get floppy and then you'll go into heart failure. And it's a progressive genetic disease. And so when I was diagnosed, they were like, okay, you're done. You're done with all of the things that you love to do. And so it was a crazy time because it was like this one thing that I used, the only thing I knew to manage my stress and my emotional state was being ripped out from underneath me. And the person that I was being taken away. I had built this identity of being a runner and now I couldn't be one anymore. And so it was a crisis. It was an identity crisis. It was a moment of who am I in this world and what am I doing? And all this time, I mean, my son was one. It was his first birthday the day I went into VTAC. And so I was also already struggling with how to be a mom and what does my relationship look like? And, there were so many different things going on at that time. And yeah, it was a lot.
I just want to come back to the discounting that was going on in order to cling to this identity as an athlete, like pushing past your body's red flags, you said, instead of listening. And I just want to highlight the irony that I say this to women in healthcare all the time, because I did the same thing, is we're helping other people learn how to do that. And yet, they always say people in healthcare are the worst patients, but it's true, right? The part of even saying the Garmin must be broken. You have data.
Yeah, but it couldn't possibly be right.
But I just see the Garmin saying, like, it obviously took years of figuring out this was an identity threat, right? But in that moment, that was still very alive. And like the way you were wired was nothing will get in the way of this. Not even my Garmin telling me. Not even Julie saying, go to the doctor.
Right. I mean, none of it.
It was like, going to go call your patients myself and cancel them.
You did. You actually walked up. I remember sitting on the plinth. I always like, I hate that word, by the way, plinth. Like, why is
Right.
this
Yeah.
called a
With you.
plinth? Okay,
Right.
but whatever. This is a side note. So I'm sitting there. You had just taken my blood pressure. My heart rate at that point was like 38 because I was training all the time. And like, you're like, what? Just stay here. And I remember you leaving me there and going to cancel my patients and sitting there thinking, like, what is wrong with her? Why does she think I have to
Does
cancel
she
my
hate me?
patients? Right? Like, I have to go to work. Like, I have a job to do. There's patients waiting for me. And you were like, no. Thank God, because I don't think I would have gone to the doctor.
Don't
And
be an idiot.
that's the craziest part, right? I don't think I would have.
No. And I mean, it was so hard. You said it was like however many months, 8 to 12 of actually trying to figure out. Just watching that happen was so frustrating
Yeah.
too, as an onlooker and a
Yeah.
friend and a colleague and someone who's in medicine too. Because it was like, guys, stop telling her there's nothing wrong.
Right. Well, and I think, sorry, the backstory is, I had passed out in 3 marathons previously.
Yeah.
Years past, and I had gone to 2 cardiologists, maybe 3 cardiologists, before this whole incident, and they had cleared me. And so I really thought I was fine because I'd done the right things. I had been cleared several times, and they just kept telling me I was dehydrated. And I was like, I'm not dehydrated, but okay. And then I was like, cool, I'm dehydrated. I can keep pushing my body.
You're dehydrated. Just drink some water
Just drink
and
some
get some
water.
electrolytes. It's the answer to everything.
Totally.
I also love this part about the little pieces of me slowly being stripped away. I remember you calling me one time sobbing when someone told you couldn't run. I remember where I was. I was driving down 85 South through Atlanta on a bridge, like up over the interstate. I just remember, and I was like, oh God, someone told you that? Like,
Yeah, like
I just
really.
knew how
Yeah.
much weight that carried. And honestly, I didn't know what to say. It was like, okay, let's just breathe,
Yeah. Totally.
start there, and maybe, drink some water and get some electrolytes.
Well, I still like, I just started to tear up thinking about it. Like that, I remember because what happened was they kept testing me for things. And
Mm.
so what would happen is things would be negative and they'd be like, oh, we cleared the scariest things out. So like I had hope that it was something else. And then we did an ablation and I felt a ton better. And then I had hope that it was something else. And every time I had that hope, and then when the last piece, I remember sitting in the office and he had repeated a couple tests. And he said, my doctor said, I am really sorry, Kate. Like we had ruled this out already, but we did this test again because it didn't make sense. And this time we saw XYZ. And he's like, you're done. Like you have to make a decision at this point. And then he started talking about putting in a defibrillator and I don't know if you remember this exactly, but they told me that I needed like a defibrillator, the next week. And I said no. And I left the country. I left because I was so fed up with people telling me what I needed to do with my body
Mm.
and not really like the physician I was talking to was incredible. Like he ended up being incredible. Both of my cardiologists were incredible,
Mm-hmm.
but they still didn't understand that I needed to have some agency over myself. I couldn't make that decision in the office at that moment. And I don't know if I didn't have a 1-year old, I don't know if I would have listened. I mean, now this Kate would have totally listened.
Mm-hmm.
That Kate, I don't know if she would have if she didn't have a child. And so I left the country. I went to Mexico and then I came back and I was ready. But I needed to
Mm-hmm.
make that decision on my own terms.
Wow. I mean, I think that what you just said speaks so much to it's like you were going through this identity unraveling, right? Or re-raveling. It's like actually grasping who the real you was. And that to me feels like one of those moments where that was actually the real you saying, give me a minute, and I'm going to make this with agency, not because you told me I have to. Yeah. May we all have permission to, it's surgery, it's chemotherapy, it's something that someone telling you need to do and make a decision on right now. I mean, as long as it's not you're bleeding out and it's trauma, and yes, you need to make the decision right this second, may we all have that courage to say to someone, give me a minute or a week in Mexico,
Where
whatever
there's
it needs
no
to be.
healthcare, and if anything happens, you're gone.
No problem.
I think my doctor almost had a heart attack himself when I was like, I'm leaving the country and going to Mexico nonetheless.
It's fine. What could go wrong?
Nothing. It was totally fine.
Nothing went wrong.
Right. It was good.
Yeah. So you ended up getting the right diagnosis, and they told you at the time, there's a plot twist, but they told you at the time you were done running.
Yeah.
And that was devastating, obviously. And I feel like the other great irony in it is had you started Precision yet? I can't remember the timeline.
No.
No, right. Because we were, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Remember, we were working together.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I remember I was so stressed. And the place that we worked was very stressful. And
Right.
I know you've talked about that before. And I've talked about that. The environment, even though there were so many amazing people there, like I do want to say, like, I loved everybody that worked there. I really did. But the environment was super competitive. It was, eat what you kill. It was like high stakes all the time. And my schedule was, I had a waiting list that was so long because I treated runners, and people heard, about that. And my waiting list was so long, and there was so much pressure that I was crumbling because I was trying to manage that and that environment while managing what was like the explosion that was my life. And so I remember I was treating a patient, and she was a massage therapist, and she's like, do you want to like leave here and treat somewhere else? And I'm like, what? No. And it was she's like, okay. Are you sure? Like, I'm like, yes, don't talk to me about this again. Like, I felt like, so then I think like a few months later, she's like, hey, I have all this space now. I'm opening this space with my friend, my business partner, which we could talk about who this business partner was. It's really funny later, but she was like, I really think, this would be a good fit. So it's like she knew I needed to leave. I didn't know. And then finally I went home one day and I'm in the backyard throwing the ball with the dog with Austin. And Brian comes home and I said, I think I'm going to quit my job next week. He's like in his dress, like his work clothes, like button up shirt, all the things. And he's looking at me and he doesn't know what to say. So he leaves. He goes in the side and grabs a beer, which is really funny because that's not like that's not him, So
yeah.
he grabs a beer and he comes back out. He says, okay, so we're quitting our job. What is the plan?
Okay. All right. So I want to circle back to the great irony is you were having running stripped from you while trying to help other runners keep running from getting stripped from them.
Right.
And the job itself, like the container of that job, you were clinging to. Is it fair to say because of that last piece of identity, which was helping runners? You know what I mean? Like at the time, it felt like that was the only place to do that.
I think it was more fear, to be honest with you. I think it was fear of, I hadn't actually thought about owning my own practice before.
Yeah.
And I hadn't actually, like my plan before everything happened was to just be the best person at treating runners there or somewhere like it. Like if I really think about it, like who I am as a person, it never would have worked. I was always going to start my own place, but I just didn't know that about myself at that time. And I think that everything that happened showed me that that's exactly what I needed to do. So it wasn't that I was clinging to treat runners because I knew I was still going to treat runners, but I just wasn't ready. I was afraid to do something that felt really scary.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, it hadn't incorporated into your identity yet.
Right.
That of business owner, founder. Yeah. It was always there, but you hadn't like unraveled down to that piece yet.
No, not at all.
I resonate with that. I'm the same way. I never was in my mind. There's so many people that would say, oh, you know what? I think that you would make a really great entrepreneur. And I'd be like, me? You're talking to me? Is there someone behind me that you're talking to? Like,
Yeah,
what?
I know. I never ever thought about it. And then it was so obvious once it happened,
Right. Right.
as all things are.
We were just talking before we came on about the beautiful freedom that comes with like setting your schedule and all these things, and how this is so entrepreneurial. Like, I mean, we both work on appointments and have clients that we work with, and that's great. And we love them. And there's a part of having appointments and things scheduled that's like, ah, get off me.
I just want to do what I do and be creative in my mind and like decide where I'm going to show up in an hour.
Right. I just want it to be spur of the moment. And I think it comes down to really, you don't want anyone else to tell you when and where and how to be yourself or to show up. Yeah.
I know it is. It's like you just want to be doing your thing. And I love treating patients. I do love treating patients. And I love, I also do consulting. Actually, right before this, I was on like this really cool consulting call, which will like kind of roll into the medicine piece later. So I do that and I love it. And then I also love the time where I have nothing on the schedule. So I can just create.
Yeah. White space is the new wealthy. I say that a lot.
It's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes.
Although I was just telling a mentor I work with that sometimes I reach the point where there's too much white space. And I'm like, I need some appointments. I need some structure. I need like a little bit of, I call it the fence around the dog park. Like I need this fence and container, and then I can run free and be all flowy and whatnot. If I don't have quite enough of that, it's almost worse.
So I don't have enough of that white space time for sure. Like I think
You don't have enough.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I don't have enough, but I mean, it's not too much because I truly do have, even though, I have patients and clients, but I also have like the app, and then I do research, and then I'm on podcasts or like whatever it is. So I always have something every single day on the schedule besides the blocks of time doing the tasks. But I'm always like, I don't think there's a single day. Well, that's not true. Sometimes Fridays I don't have appointments, but it's very few and far between.
But that would feel different, I think, if you've got something every day than having a whole day of nothing is like so luxurious.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
I know.
Well, and then you also have a child,
Right. There's that, which
there's that.
P.S.
And dog.
Oh my God. And
dogs.
So they're even harder than my child. I mean, I have Weimaraners, as you know, and oh my God. Like last night, I was up at 4:30 because my dog, he eats everything. He ate one of my socks and then he threw it up in the crate at 4:30. And Brian is out of town right now. And like the roof is being fixed at my house. So it's like loud as like it is a disaster at my house right now. And those dogs, they like just put me over the edge sometimes, but they're so loving. They're so snuggly. They're my favorite at the same time. I mean, Andy is so easy. Like really as a child, Andrew is like so easy. The only thing that's not so easy now is, so he has the gene for my heart disease, which we've talked about in the past. And that was one of the most devastating pieces of my diagnosis, was that he had the gene. So it doesn't mean he has the disease. And typically the disease, it shows up in their 30s, but he's been followed since he was a baby by a cardiologist. And this year, the research is showing that, maybe he can do a little bit of sports. And so for the first time, I've put him in, he's wanted to play soccer forever, which of course is like the worst one because it's running, but
so much running.
So I'm completely stressed out. And I have an AED that I bring, and everybody on the team knows. I'm like, who knows CPR, like the whole thing. The reality of something happening is very low, but you have to be prepared. I did not think he would make a club team because he's never been on a team really before. So he said, can I try out? I'm like, yeah, try out, kid. That's fine. He made the team. And so I didn't know what that meant. And to all those soccer moms out there, holy crap, you're amazing. Because I had a meltdown the first tournament weekend. I started crying in the car and telling Brian I couldn't do this. This couldn't be my life. And my sweet child said, "You know what, Mom? It's okay. You're a good mommy." He said, "You don't have to come to everything." He's like, "I just want to play." He said, "It's okay if you're not here." And so I'm not going to go to every game, but he's totally cool with it. And we have an understanding. I don't even know how we got there. It's just like my major stress point is this soccer right now because it's like emotionally hard and the fear is definitely there, even though we have a plan. But also, like, I crave alone time and downtime and quiet. And that's the opposite of the soccer field.
That is not it. That is not the place if you're an introvert. Nope. Small talk. Screaming. No. Loud noises.
Yes.
People. Plus the added, it's like you're never going to be able to not be a little stressed. I mean, you're bringing an AED with you. Like,
Totally.
your little first responder brain is never going to turn off. Plus, mom, plus you've experienced it. So there's like so many layers of trauma there that good job. All I have to say is good job with saying maybe this isn't for me.
Well, the meltdown was real. I mean, like, I was sitting in the car crying, and now it's funny. But Brian just looks at me. He says, "I think," because it was in between two games. I didn't know there was going to be a second game because they won. I thought we were going home. We were not going home. And so he drove me home. He drove me an hour and a half home because the game was 4 hours away. Like, we had 4 hours in between games. He drove me home and drove back with Andy because I was having such a meltdown. You got to love that man.
O'Brien. Good old Brian.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about it too is it's, so many people would push through that because you're a mom. You should be there. Like, speaking of identity, and this is my identity I'm clinging to, here's such a beautiful, 180 of now Kate, who's like, yeah, I could probably suck it up and make it happen and push through and not listen to my body or my emotions or whatever out of obligation or this idea that this is what a good mom is. But why? For what? Is that a good mom? Pushing through?
Yeah. Well,
it depends, who you ask, probably.
Yeah, I think so. And honestly, like I said, Andy is like a 55-year-old in an 11-year-old's body. So this kid does not care. Like, I am so grateful for all the things I've learned through this process because we have taught him what I've been learning, what Brian's been learning about emotional intelligence, about taking care of yourself. Like, another example is, he wants to be really good at soccer. So they offer private soccer lessons on Fridays. It's like $100. It's like not a big deal. And so I was like, "Andy, do you want to do the lessons?" And he said, "Nah, I think that'd be a little overwhelming. I'm already committed to Tuesdays and Thursday soccer practice, which I'm getting better every time I go. And I play on the weekend." He's like, "It's too much for me and I don't want to do it." I'm like, "Okay, then I will never ask you again."
And to think this kid was born from someone who said the Garmin was broken.
I know.
Who once said that.
Right.
You don't say it anymore.
Yeah, so it's pretty incredible, like in that loop and everything I've learned, we've been able to teach, which is also beautiful.
Yeah,
is that
that's really beautiful.
You think about how would I have raised this child if not?
Truly.
Push it. Come on. You can do it. Your leg's only broken.
Okay. Well, so many beautiful lessons.
November, yeah, it'll be our 10-year anniversary this year.
I was about to say November. Why do I know this? Anyway, obviously it wasn't a linear path, even with precision. You've written books. You speak all the time. You've founded the RunSource app, which is now in version 2. Walk us through not every detail, but like the ups, the downs, the lessons learned, the things that brought each thing to life, the parts of you.
Yeah. So like I said, I never imagined owning. And then I did. So it started out in a room. I was just trading outside of a room or in a room. And then I also taught classes at Emory as adjunct faculty. And one of my students asked me if I would be his mentor because he wanted to do an orthopedic residency. And you have to have someone that went through an orthopedic residency to be your mentor. And I did. And I was one of the only ones in Atlanta at the time. And so I was like, okay. And then I was like, if I have a PT, a new grad who's now my resident, that means I need to have a room for him to treat in. And so I was like, I guess I need to actually get like an office. And so it's funny because there's a small office next to the big office I was sharing space with. And I just knocked a wall down, took a couple rooms, and that became Precision. It was this really small, like 2 rooms to treat in, like a laundry room / treadmill room. And then like, it had like a loft upstairs with all the exercise. And then we shared the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom and kitchen with the other suite. And so we started there. And I thought, okay, this will be fine. I'll just treat here for a little while and no big deal. But then we kept getting busier. And then I think it was around COVID actually. So probably 5 years ago, the people that were in the big suite, they couldn't afford to keep it anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was growing. I kind of wanted a different space. And they asked me if I would take it over. And it was really scary because it was huge, 10,000 or some ridiculous. I don't know how many square feet. I'm so bad with that kind of stuff, but it's really big. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Then I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. Like it was one of those things. So it was like a knowing that I needed to do
Mm-hmm.
it. So I did. So I got rid of this suite. I put the wall back up and I took the big suite. And then I'm like, oh, I guess I'll hire some more people. So it's just kind of like my second hire, like Casey, I don't remember. She was there with other people, but she's been there the longest now. She's
Mm-hmm.
been with me for like 6 years. So I can't remember the timeline. The timeline's kind of funny, but so she's like, yeah, let's do this. So, and then it just kind of kept growing. And as we kept growing, I was still involved in the running community um, and still teaching and still doing things. And then we were involved with Atlanta Track Club a little bit more. And then they were developing this multidisciplinary team. And they wanted us to be PTs with them for a while, but there wasn't someone there that was really having the conversation with us around what that looked like because we're out of network cash practice. And so that's very different in terms of price and all this stuff. Finally, Eric came to the track club and he and I were friends and we talked. And I was like, look, we'll do it. We just have to figure out the details. And so we figured out the details and then became the official PT providers, the Atlanta Track Club Elites. And then Sarah Reiser is a friend of mine. She is a running medicine physician, came from Stanford to Emory. And then she was part of Emory was working with the track club. So Sarah was like, well, I can't do it without Kate. And so we started, and then we started to form this multidisciplinary team. So now there's like a sports dietitian, a sports psychologist, both who I helped interview, like a coach, director of high performance. There's a chiropractor, my PT team, a couple of physicians. And so now we all work together on a regular basis. So that happened, and that was like 4.5 years ago. And then, of course, we just kept getting busier. And during this time, when this multidisciplinary team formed, we looked at our athletes, and the athletes were, pretty injured and things, not because anyone was doing anything necessarily wrong, but there's just things that were getting missed and we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So then we started bringing this multidisciplinary team in and everyone started getting better. So shockingly enough, working together helps your athletes. And so I started to notice this and I thought, well, you know what? This is how I practice at my running medicine clinic. I'm always referring and sharing, but like most people don't know that this is a thing. And I was like, oh crap, I'm going to have to make something. I'm going to have to like solve this problem for people. Crap. Okay, what am I going to do? So then I started talking to like all my running medicine friends across the country about like, what is their solution? There's no solution, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, I'll make this app. So I made the RunSource app and the first version 2 actually comes out like soon. It's like this month
Mm-hmm.
or something. I don't know. Whenever the developer decides to let
Mm-hmm.
it go. But version 1 was like, there's over 50 running medicine specialists across the country from all these different backgrounds, nutrition, yoga, sports psychology, PTs, MDs, everything. And I basically asked them to just dump their knowledge, like make short videos about all these things that I specifically asked and put them in one place so that people could access the tools that they needed. I created running injury programs. Like there were multidisciplinary, not just PTs. They have strength, but then they also have nutrition pieces. And
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so I did all this for the RunSource app. So that's how that started, is because of the multidisciplinary team at the track club. And I recognized how much quicker people were getting better. and just it was a better environment. So I created that, and it's been on version 1 for a while. It's not like that pretty. The app is really not that pretty, and it's kind of like clunky, but this version 2 is fixing all that, and it actually has an AI agent that is me. I created it in a closed container. It's super freaky. Like
Oh
basically all
God.
of no, it's like super freaky, right? So it's like I created this closed container. I put all the research articles I've ever read, which I keep them all, which is so nerdy. It's like 500, like there were over 500 running
Of
articles,
course.
of course. And then and then I took all my clinical reasoning patterns and I wrote them all out and I've dumped that in and like just all this stuff. So you can ask it questions. And
Wow.
it'll tell you it doesn't know if it doesn't know. And it'll pull from anything on the website or on the app, including other of the multidisciplinary experts. And so then it'll tell you where the information came from, whether it's a research article or one of the videos or whatever. And then it even is a bit sassy like me. So it'll say, like, if you ask the same question over and over, it'll say, you should probably go to a doctor or you
Talk to
should
someone.
probably talk to somebody. And then eventually it'll say, dude, like go to the doctor, like stop asking this question because you have to see somebody. So anyway, it's really funny. So that's kind of how that happened. But in between, when you're doing something that you love and you're, pretty good at it, people start asking you to speak about it. And I didn't anticipate being a speaker. Although in undergrad, I took speaking classes, which is really funny. I hated them. They were the worst. Like I hated them. I never wanted to do them, but I did take them. So it's funny. Maybe my intuition knew. And so I just started speaking at things. And now I love it. Like I fly all over. I speak. People pay me to come speak to teams. And
Hmm.
so that just kind of started happening. And then with the books, like I wrote one book to kind of explain my story. And that was really just to help me work through it. But I get calls about it all the time. People who have what I have reach out and I talk to them. I do some counseling, like, talking with some of the cardiologists will hook us up and ask, can you
Hmm.
speak to this person because they've going through what you're going through. And so I do. And then the second book, the one about returning to running postpartum, I wrote because, again, like nobody was talking about it at the time. And when I wanted to run postpartum, I didn't know what to do. Everyone told me it was wrong. So I wrote a book about it with
Hmm.
my colleague Blair, who's a public health therapist. And so I think that the thing is, I just kept seeing things like any good entrepreneur when someone is not when there is a need that needs to be filled around something that I have a lot of knowledge about, I just start to fill it. And that's kind of what I'm doing. And I'm currently doing some research about beliefs, knowledge, and attitudes, beliefs, knowledge, perception, and attitudes of runners.
Mm.
And that paper will probably come out, I don't know, this year. But I did it with a couple people from different universities in the Northeast. And we're looking at it because of the disconnect between really like what runners believe and know and what healthcare providers believe and know. And there's like no bridge in between. And so it's this missing piece of like, how do we communicate back and forth? And, in terms of what I do, I'm often the bridge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned like your intuition, and I love this piece of you just filling holes. There's a hole, gotta
There's a
fill it.
whole
There's a hole. The serial entrepreneur who once never thought she'd be one.
Mhm.
And now it's like it keeps going,
Yeah.
all these little enterprises. And, but I think that there's an element of you that you uncovered in the process of, we could call it identity or not, but like the essence of you that is, you have 500 research articles that date back to 2006, or, this intuitive knowing that just shows up. And I think that's the magic of your medicine, which is like, yeah, we can talk science all day and I'm here for it. But now, even like your scientific research is looking at the intangibles, the beliefs, knowledge, perception, and attitude. I feel like the hashtag for that article is if you know, you know.
Yeah. That's great.
Like,
Yeah.
where you're like, yeah, runners have this way of orienting towards the world and themselves. And then the medical world has this way, and they don't always mesh.
And
And you created an app for that. But also, you also have to educate the people in the medical world.
yeah. It's true. And so actually I have a podcast coming out September 5th. It's called Interdisciplinary Case Miles, and it's with a sports dietitian and a running medicine physician. And it's the same kind of idea is we're working together and we're talking about difficult cases and we talk about those things. We talk about how important stress is, how important beliefs are, how important all of these things are. And I think that it does come back to the fact like I was a patient and I did not feel heard in a lot of ways. And I was tossed around and nobody knew. And there was this fear and like, what is wrong with me? And like, my best work is definitely helping people um, who are in it, who have been told they don't know what's wrong, who have seen so many physicians and PTs and providers and feel lost and hopeless and frustrated. I mean, that's what I do, like consulting. So, like, I had a case today of an athlete who has a stress reaction in the femur. And that athlete, she's incredible and she just wants answers. And the truth is like, the medical system doesn't allow you the time to sit down and sift through everything and sit with the person instead of with the injury. And so
Mm-hmm.
this person is not a femur stress fracture. This person is a mom and an athlete and all of these other things. And we need to recognize that as healthcare providers. And my story has allowed me to see it and work through all of those things. And you know, my research and my podcast and all the things, that's what it does. But ultimately it's about, you know, looking and seeing what's going on with these people. And a lot of times it's so much more than just the injury. Not a lot of times, every time it is. And if we
Of
don't
course.
address it and think about it, then we're missing the point.
Well, it dates all the way back to, I mean, there's so much in your story around, well, that test was negative, so there's nothing wrong with you. And that test is negative, so there's nothing wrong with you. Meanwhile, you are disintegrating, you know, emotionally and identity wise. And there's this person behind all of the negative tests, which actually weren't negative when we found out later.
Yeah.
There actually was something there. And nobody's looking at that person and going, how might this bomb feel when it drops on her? And I say, don't run.
Right.
Maybe just don't run as much. That's huge. And I mean, I still remember I'm also writing a book about swimming.
Yeah.
And like, that's the center of the book. It's the name of this podcast. And it's like, yeah, I eventually learned the lesson that I needed to sink in order to rise. At the time, it was just keep swimming at all costs because of identity, because that was my purpose, because that was everything.
Yeah.
That was my people. And I think that you're right. The medical world, real good at the science, less good at the art and the intuitive side.
Yeah.
So I'm like, your case with the mom who has a stress reaction, who's a runner. That and a femur, by the way, that's like
Yeah.
devastating.
Yeah. It is.
That's not a fuck around and find out kind of injury. I mean, it was. That's what got her there, you know?
Right.
But that's one that needs to be handled with so much care because there's so much that goes into why it got there.
Well, and understanding and explaining, like taking so part of what I do with my clients is like we get a Google folder, right? And I actually even put in the research. Like so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of what I do is, you know, it is intuitive. It is like I feel like this person might need this. And it's
Mm-hmm.
experience, but it's also knowing and it's science, but it's also listening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all of that. It's like I loved how you said, I think the science and the soul, putting the science and the
Mm-hmm.
soul together, because that's exactly what it is. And, you know, so I write out a lot of things like, hey, this is where you are. This is what the research says. This is why we're doing this. I want you to really understand. And it's things that are never explained to patients, but it's the basic things that each of us as a human want to know. And in creating a plan, like letting have someone have a plan and explaining the reasoning behind the plan. And my plans all have a column in it that's like, what are you doing for yourself? What is your stress management? What is like, and it's always like, here are 5 things you can do to take care of yourself that are not physical, you know, because all of that is so important.
Well, you had to learn that.
Yeah.
I just remember like even when you first got your defibrillator, you know, and you're going to yoga and it goes off in the middle of class. I get the phone call about that one too. And you're trying to figure out
Yeah.
what to do with yourself from such a good place. Like it's actually a valid question. And that's not running. And it's not physical because your whole purpose was physical therapy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all, it's so easy for it to become all about function, movement, physicality, performance, like measurable things,
Yeah, for sure.
tangible things. And this soul part is so much bigger and more expansive, and it just gets overlooked, or it gets locked into you have a psychological problem. Not there's anything wrong with that, but it's sort of like behind a closed door, and we pathologize
Yes.
it and make it its own little thing instead of weaving it and integrating it all together.
That's right. One of the not dietitians, sports psychologists that I work with that I love so much always says that mental health is a continuum. And
Mm.
so we're all on it somewhere at some point and it moves. And to think about that is, I think it's really powerful way to think about mental health because yeah, we all have it. We all have mental health, but there's this whole stigma about what is, oh, this person has mental health issues, but that's not true. We all live on that
Who
continuum.
doesn't? Yeah,
Right.
right.
And so at some point we're going to have challenges and making that part of, part of our care is important. And I do refer to mental health professionals all the time because, that's their lane, but we have to still talk about it and we still have to address it.
Yeah. I love so many of the people I've interviewed on this podcast are in healthcare for so many good reasons. And, we've got one lane of people who are sort of the healthcare, I don't want to say rejects, but graduates, like no longer practicing.
Yeah.
Graduates is a much nicer word.
Yeah.
I love that you're still in it and creating this bridge because a lot of people, myself included, have graduated and it's like, well, I'm still helping women in healthcare, like to do this exact thing, which is like, can you bridge the soul and the science? Can you bring in that part of you that is there? Can you maybe not be the mental health provider for this client, but can you start the conversation or keep the conversation going or check in on them
Yeah.
with knowledge, expertise, care, attunement? Like, I think that sometimes in healthcare, we're so siloed and scared I can't go in that lane because that's not my lane. And if I talk about it, then I'm not in scope. And if I take this course that is about mental health, then I'm out of scope. But it's never trying to be in someone else's lane. It's just creating that integrative bridge.
It's
Yeah.
integration, and that's what it is. And, for years, I mean, chiropractors do PT exercises. It's the same, you know what I mean? Like, it's, as long as you're doing what's in the best practice for the patient or the client, whatever you want to say, and you know your limitations and you're relying on both science and being human,
Mm-hmm.
like they are a human and you're asking for help and you're referring when you need to refer, I think it's fine. Like this is how healthcare should be. Like the way, I mean, I really believe the way I practice healthcare and the way that my team practices healthcare is the way that it needs to be because it doesn't, it's like a safety net.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when people are falling, they need to be caught.
They
And then
need to be caught.
and then listen. You have to listen. And they will tell you what is wrong if you just listen. And that's it.
Yeah. And I love that, like, we can't predict when someone's going to be falling.
No.
Just because the thing on the calendar says physical therapy, they might be falling and we might need to be that safety net for them that day or that week or for a month. You know, maybe there's a wait list with the best mental health care provider and like maybe they need someone to talk to. Be a human,
Be a human.
human to human first. That's so important.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
it. So it's, yeah, I feel pretty honored that, I don't see a ton of patients like we talked about. I haven't graduated, but boy, it's funny because someone once recently asked me if I was retired and I laughed so hard because I was like, if this is retired, I am in trouble.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't work on like a typical schedule, and it was really funny actually. So it's actually the joke in my town that Kate's retired, but why is she always flying to speak and do all these things? But anyway, yeah, I think it's a privilege to still be able to see people. And
Yeah.
I see a handful of people every week. Sometimes it's the virtual consulting and sometimes it's in person, but I don't overdo it either because I really want to give my all to those people. And I really believe that if I was only in a room treating patients every day, I couldn't make the impact that I need to make on the world. Like
Yeah.
a lot of time is spent for me teaching others how to do what I do. It's about getting the information out there, whether it's that research article or it's sitting on a podcast talking about difficult cases that have come across and what has been, missed and how we can do better. That new podcast I'm doing. I mean, all of those things help to get this out there further. So I can't just see patients, but I do like it.
Yeah. Well, you talked about this retirement lifestyle,
Oh
which it very
yeah.
much is not, obviously. But I think that it's an important piece that was also born from that original moment on, the plinth.
I hate that you said that word again.
I also hate when people call it a bed. I hope you don't, but
Oh
it's
God.
it's a table.
It's a table. It is a table. The bed. Lay down on the bed. Lay down on the
I'm like,
plinth.
ew,
Ew.
no, it's not a bed. That
Oh yeah.
feels
It's a treatment
inappropriate.
table.
But you have completely reinvented. I mean, that person who identified as athlete still has the athlete. I mean, look at there's a problem, I'm going to fix it. Still has that energy in her. And yet there's also this full embrace, full aliveness in the white space, in the creating boundaries, in the building a life that allows you to be full throttle in all of your empires that you're pursuing, but also not full throttle. So tell us about, your retirement life that isn't really one.
I know. I just sit around drinking coffee.
Mm, right.
Yeah, no. So what really came out of it was that I need to take care of myself before I take care of others. It sounds so easy, but it is the hardest thing to do. And I'm not great at it sometimes still because I'm human. But in general, my mornings, I don't see patients. If I'm going to see a patient that day, I don't really see them before 10 or maybe even sometimes 11 o'clock because I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person. I don't want to get up in the morning. When I was a runner, like a hardcore runner, I would get up at 5 in the morning and then I'd be mad every day, even though I
God,
loved
how?
running. Yeah, I'd be like, I can't believe I got up at 5 to run. I love running. I hate 5 o'clock in the morning. It was like this, I kept fighting myself to do the things that I thought I had to do. And I don't do that anymore. So I rarely set an alarm. My husband is really great about the mornings with Andy. I love to walk my son to the bus, but if I don't wake up in time, Brian does it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't set an alarm because it stresses me out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are occasions that I will, of course, but I get up, I walk Andy to the bus, I maybe walk the dogs, I go to the gym, I meditate, I drink my cup of coffee, I might read or journal, and then I start my day. And then I
Mm-hmm.
answer emails, or I go on a podcast, or I work on the app, or I see a patient, or I work on an article I'm writing for a magazine, whatever it is. But I take that time in the morning for myself. And you know what I found is even though I can work for 12 hours because I love what I do, and sometimes I get distracted. Like when Andy was at camp, I'd be like, oh, wait, what time is shoot? It's 8 o'clock at night and I've worked all
Same.
day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's okay
Mm-hmm.
because I love it. But
Mm-hmm.
but also I get more done in a shorter period of time
Right.
because I've taken care of myself first and I'm not dragging and wishing I had done something else. Like I really get to be in it and loving what I'm doing because I've taken care of myself.
You're right that it's so much easier said than done. It
Much
almost
easier.
sounds like something that's stitched, cross stitched on a pillow, it's kind of this little cliche, take care of yourself before others. But you're living it. It's really literally your day is you first. I do the same. If you're going to see me before 10 a.m. and it's an emergency or I'm getting on a plane, that's it. You know, like maybe not even getting on a plane. I don't schedule
Oh
flights
my God.
usually early
Me neither.
unless I
Did
have to.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to like 2 weeks ago when I went to running camp. And I really was like, what did I do to myself? Because and Brian hates it because he likes early flights, but I usually take that midday flight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With you on that. But for better or worse, you learned the hard way, that lesson. I learned the hard way. that lesson. We haven't even mentioned we were literally both going through the
Same time.
life turned upside down at the same time.
We were treating next to each other in our, like, we were
Like dying.
We were like
Literally.
dying. Both of us were literally dying next to each other and living.
I'm living. Somehow scraping by. Yep. You never sat me down and told me to cancel my patients.
I did not ever do
I
that.
played it off well.
No, but I do recall a few times I sat your butt down.
I remember when you said, this moment is burned in my memory. I'd had a CT scan and I was like, yeah, so that thing in my lung is like 10 centimeters big. And you said, well, that's going to have to come out. That's all you said. And I was like, I did not want to hear that, but you're right. I think I was like, turn around.
No, there were a little, yeah.
It was like that affirmation. I was like,
yeah, I know. I remember us sitting in that, like we had our treatment rooms, like they're booths. I don't even know. There wasn't even like a room. It was like the curtain. And then we had like a little room with lockers and like a place to put our computers. I remember us in there, all sorts of stuff happening in that room with you, because it was, we didn't really want to talk in the staff room about everything. And it was usually you and me, and there were a couple other PTs, but for some reason we were able to have more private conversations there. So I do remember having a few pretty private, important conversations in that little room about your health or my health or what the hell are we doing kind of conversations.
Yeah. That room, if walls could talk.
Woo, baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so beautiful. Okay, we're going to make a pretty hard right turn pivot to the thing we do at the end of every episode here, which is hot seat lightning round questions that are pretty much all fun.
Okay.
But you got to give me your gut with each one.
You
ready for this?
No, I'm ready.
Okay, number 1. If you could be any animal other than a human, what would it be and why?
That's funny. Okay, so I think an eagle because it's freedom and flying, and I think flying is super cool, and like the idea of just like riding the wave. I don't know, like just riding, and then it just feels like a really good thing, and I think freedom is really important to me and on a lot of levels. But I also, my dogs, because they're so spoiled, and who wouldn't want to be one of my dogs?
Honestly,
I mean, I literally cook them chicken and rice and carrots. They don't even eat real dog food. Like they're so spoiled. Yeah, it's a disaster at my house. So
they eat better than I do.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so it's amazing. Eagle or your Weimaraners?
Yeah.
Perfect. Eagle eye also, like that sharp vision, that fits, that tracks. I love that. All right, next question. If you could get a drink with 2 people, dead or alive, who are they? Why? What would you say to or ask them?
So that's so every time someone asks me this question or like a question like this, I have a really hard time because the answer is I don't really know. I feel like I'm pretty lucky and I have every conversation I really want to have. Like I go and ask the people. I mean, obviously there are I can't do that with dead people.
But your answer could be, I'm good. That could actually be the answer.
Like, I'm good. Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm one of those people. If I have a question, I'm going to call you and ask you whether I know you or not. Like, that's actually the thing is I reach out to people on Instagram if I see like a post that they did. And I'm like, I want to be your friend. Like, I want to understand this. I just reach out to people.
Yeah. Yeah. You're already taking care of it. It's not a pipe dream. Love that. All right. Next question. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Oh God, no, definitely not.
This is the most polarizing question I ask. And it's always, oh God, no, or yes. There's no like, I don't know, maybe it depends on the pizza.
No, but I do love it in soup, like in like Vietnamese soup.
Whoa. Okay. All right. Gonna have to try that. Never heard of it. Love it. All right. I am a fly on the wall on an average Friday night at your house. What do I see you doing?
So lame. I'm in what my husband calls my inside clothes because apparently I have a special these special outfits for when I'm inside. It's so hot in Atlanta or here that, I changed to go walk the dogs, change for work. So I'm in my inside clothes for sure, 100%. Usually, well, it could go either way. I'm just done. So I'm reading on the couch and snuggling with the dogs or my child, but it's quiet for sure. Or we're playing a game as a family and we've made homemade pizza or something together. Andy helps me cook a lot.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll like cook something and then we'll play games. But we're pretty lame at my house. I mean, I don't want to stay up late. We don't really go out, but I don't want to. I'm so
Wait.
happy in the quiet.
Lame to who? Because this sounds like a dream.
And when it's cold out, the fire's going, Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. 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 This is not lame. We're going to make lame cool again.
Yes, I'm in.
All right. Actually, I think almost everyone I've interviewed has said pretty much the same thing.
Well, what does
We had
that
one
say?
person who's like, I'm up till 3 a.m. writing. I was like, good. Love it. Also cool.
Hardcore.
On a Friday. All right. Last one. What is a hidden pleasure or obsession of yours that people might find surprising, weird, quirky, or questionable?
I love romances. I have read like 200 or 300 romancy novels.
200 or 300?
Yes. Like I read like 2 a week. So I don't
Amazing.
watch TV. I don't drink. I literally read those books and I read them in the car sometimes when Brian's driving. Like I just love them. And it's not really my personality because I usually, it is now. But like I would have been horrified at myself several years ago to admit it, but also to even consider it because it's not research. It's not helping my career. Like
it's not real.
It's not real. It's fantasy, like all of those things. I would have like given myself so much shit previously, but now I'm the happiest. I'm even in a romantasy book club. It's once a month on Wednesdays in my neighborhood at the little bookstore, and it is my favorite. I love it.
Ugh. Okay. This is amazing. So what's today? Thursday? Tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
We come to your house. You're going to be snuggling with your very spoiled dogs that you would like to be if you had to choose one of two animals.
Yep.
You might have had pizza that will definitely not have pineapple on it. That's homemade.
Nope.
You're not talking to anyone because you don't have any questions or you don't need to ask them anything. Tell them anything about yourself. You're reading a romantasy book in your inside clothes and it's quiet.
You nailed it. That is my life.
It's amazing. Okay, I remember in PT school, I think it was you telling the story of it being so hot in Atlanta, walking into your apartment and like literally stripping off all the way down to naked.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was so hot.
Poor Lori, my roommate.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I could not wait to take my clothes off. Like I was so hot and humid because I grew up in the Northeast. I came from Boston. I grew up in New England, and oh my God, I would strip all of I broke out in full body hives the 1st week of PT school from the heat and stress. And like, I was just done. I don't even know how I'm still here, to be honest with you. Like, how did this even happen? But my house is so cold. Like, it's always like, the condensation on my windows is ridiculous. It's like so expensive in the summer, and the winter it's like not, because I just can't.
Listen, you know what you like. That is the most important part.
I forgot.
Own that.
I forgot that you knew that. Yeah, poor Lori. I used to be like, as soon as the door closed, and I would be so tired. Like, I think she would find a row of clothes leading to my door and then me sleeping.
That's the story that I remember. There's this trail, so ending with you naked in bed or something.
Alone, by the way. But yeah, I was so hot. I hated it.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
All right. Well, on that note, let us know how we can get in touch with you.
Sure.
I promise she won't be naked.
There definitely won't be. I'll be in my inside clothes, I promise.
Or maybe she will. I don't know.
So my name is, Kate Mihevc Edwards is my social media, my HEVC. And that's also my website, which has links to all my companies. So Precision Running Medicine Clinic, the RunSource app, which is on fastbananas.com. And then it actually has a page with all the media and probably my books. I just put it all in one place. It's easy. So yeah, that's where you can find me and
amazing.
whatever I'm doing.
I'll put all that in the show notes, plus all your Instagrams, all of them.
All of, I know. What's happening?
All the Instagram handles.
It makes
Okay.
me laugh.
It does. It does. Hey, you know what? Your team has some pretty funny reels they post sometimes.
Yeah, they do. I know.
Good old Casey.
I love my team.
Shout out to Casey.
Yeah, I love my team. I really do. They're incredible. I just feel so lucky to have them. And yeah, I love them.
They're super cool. All right. Last closing remarks. What would you say to Kate from 10 years ago? You know, telling her Garmin to shut up. You could whisper in her ear, even if she wasn't going to listen. What would you say?
I would tell her it was going to be okay. I mean, because it is. I mean, like the worst thing we think of is that we could die. And you and I both were almost there, right? And it actually, that almost was probably the best thing that happened because it changed everything. And I love my life now. And even though I was super, I was successful and I was running marathons and all the things before, I didn't love it like I love it now.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
It is the best thing.
Right? It really is.
What beautiful alchemy.
Oh, I know.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. I'll have you back when you are launching your next venture or something.
Thank you,
Whatever
Julie.
that next hole is that you've left.
I hope for a little while we don't find one.
Next week, you're going to call me and be like, guess what?
All right, Julie. Thank you.
Thanks.